I will be working on a 2010 Dodge Ram. What I plan to do today is to replace the gear shift solenoid in this truck. Here's what the part looks like. I got this part from rockauto.com. It was about 300 bucks. I don't have to return a core or anything like that. If you would get the same type of part on AutoZone, it's like 600 and something. But they would give you a core charge and you could get 300 bucks back. But Rock Auto don't have to do that. What I'm experiencing right now with this truck is the gear shifting. I keep getting a check engine light where it says like gear 4 is like slipping, but then if I drive it for a while, the check engine light goes away. Truck drives just fine, and then maybe a couple hundred miles later it comes back on again. I mean, I don't notice anything crazy happening when I drive, so I think it's just a sensor problem. And unfortunately, this sensor is like 300 bucks. So we're going to get to it. It's located inside the transmission. So we're going to have to drain the oil and remove the pan, remove the chunk. Then after we remove the chunk, the sensor's attached to the chunk. But essentially, I'm also going to do kind of like a tranny flush type of deal. Maybe not a flush, but you know, drain and give it some new fluid. So I have the new filters, the Ram 1500s, the 2010s. They have two filters. I have this guy and the regular screw-on filter. I have 10 quarts. It doesn't take this many quarts, but I bought extra just cause I'm using the Valvoline full synthetic ATF plus 4. So that's what I'm going to use in my truck. And then as far as tools go, I'm going to use 8mm. I have a wire brush. I have a T25 and 19mm for the drain plug. I also have this in case I can't get the screw-on filter out of the transmission. I also have a wire brush because last time I replaced the pan, I put some RTV up there. So I'm going to clean this up, and then obviously we're going to replace the gasket and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and crawl in the truck, but as you see, I already have it on ramps. So that way it gives me more room. I have the e-brake on, so I'm just going to go ahead and tackle the job. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take our 19mm wrench or socket, and we are going to go underneath. So this is not my stock drain pan. I replaced it the last time. I replaced the filter and fluid. I bought this aftermarket. It actually has a drain plug built into it. The stock one doesn't. So if you're doing this with your stock, you're not going to have this. Unfortunately, the way you're going to have to drain the fluid is you're going to have to break free some of these bolts and just kind of like pry it open and just let the fluid spill out. It's kind of a messy job. That's why whenever I went to actually do this for the first time, I did research and I found this guy. I don't know exactly where I found it, but I found it online, and maybe it was eBay or something, but got this. So I'm just gonna, this will make my job a little easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and break it free already and make sure that this is all lined up. This is probably gonna make a mess, but there we go anyway. Here we go. Oof, right in my face. Nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that drain for a little bit, and I'll pick up the video after the fact. So now this is coming to a slow drip, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put this guy back and tighten her back up, and then when I take the pan down, I have to deal with way less fluid. So wipe up my hands, I'll this guy up a little bit. Okay. I'm not gonna go too crazy because I don't want to break my pan. That seems about right. Okay, so now I'm gonna remove these guys. So I need a 8mm. So my drill here, I'm going to see if this extension is too crazy. So I'm just going to go ahead. There's a bunch of these screws, or bolts rather, And these guys too. I think the most pain in the ass one is probably going to be this one, but I have a little 1/4 inch ratchet. So I'm just going to take each and every one of these down, and I'll do that across. Down. That would have been really bad. Alright, look at that. Alright. So now I'm going to remove this one T25 screw. I can't get it in there with this, so we're going to try with something else. Let's try with this. So this little collar here we're going to remove. So in order to remove, I'll have a little hook tool. Let's see if this will work. There it goes. Whew. Alright, cool. Well, kind of nicked it, whatever. Alright, so we're going to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remove 6 of these 8mm bolts. I'm going to let this drain for a little bit, and then I'll come back, because this is a disaster right now. So, I got it out, right, and I did not get that on camera, but what happened was, so this little plug is what plugs into the sensor, and I didn't see this until the very last moment. I figured it was a plug somewhere, but I thought maybe I could drop it down and unplug it. That obviously was not the case. So if you guys can see, this is as best I can really get you. This is the plug right here, okay? And whenever this is clipped in, this little white piece like that is clipped up, and then this little red piece locks it in. So this is how it is. So what you have to do is take a screwdriver or flathead or whatever, and then you're going to remove or push the red locking clip down, and then right here there's like you compress it, and then this will swing down like so. And the moment I did that, this thing fell down immediately. So I'm a little worried about it because it fell right onto here, and here is it here. So I hope I didn't damage anything. If I did, that's gonna be bad news. But so here's the inside of the, I guess, where the pan is. Here's the other filter right here. So I'm going to have to remove this. I don't think I can move it by hand, so I got one of these guys. Like so. And I'm just going to go ahead and remove it. And let's do it. Like so. Now, while that all drains like that, I'm going to take my chunk and bring it back to the workbench. Here's the chunk I was telling you about, this whole big old thing. And this is what fell down, unfortunately. So I would say in the future, you should probably leave maybe 2 bolts in before you go to unplug this, and then as soon as you remove the bolts, this will fall down. So that was a mistake. And I made it, so now you guys hopefully don't have to make it. And that's the whole point of this channel, right? We're going to learn. So here's the part. And here looks to be the same. Okay, so I'm glad I got the right part.
So I just wanted to add this in here real quick. Whenever I got the part from rockauto.com, this is how it looked like. I thought maybe it was a problem because there's transmission fluid all over the place. After some more research, I found that these things just have transmission fluid in them. So whenever they shift, or in shipment, whenever they shift around and stuff, I guess this happens. It was wrapped in two of these bags. All I did was clean it up really good. Any of the fluid they got on the terminals, I just used either Q-tips or my air compressor to kind of just blow it out. That way there's no issues. So if you guys try to attempt this job and you see this part, don't worry about it. It's not broken. There's nothing wrong with it. More than likely, this is just the way that it comes. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Part. So what we're going to do to remove this, I'm going to have to flip this guy over like so. And we're going to have to remove some torque screws. Got my handy drill here. Let me see. Took a picture of this. And this is exactly where, these are exactly the screws that we're going to remove. So
I figured I'd pop this in here. This is exactly what I'm looking at on my phone. I was able to steal this from someone online, so definitely not my work, but figure I'll show you anyway. This is a good chance to just go ahead and pause the video and look at what you had to do. I had to stare at this for a while. There's so many different torque screws, you don't want to remove the wrong one. So it took me a while, but I just wanted to be sure. So this is exactly what I was looking at on my phone. So you guys can pause the video and study as best you can. Again, what I was doing was just keeping it open the entire time I was unscrewing these bolts. So here you are. It takes a T25. I have my drill and everything. So there you go.
oh, there it goes. All right, cool. So there's the old part. What we're going to do now is kind of clean this up. Right. I guess it goes this way. This. There it goes. Now it's in there. I'm going to hold both of these together. If I can get one, couple bolts in.
What I'm going to do here is just go ahead and start hand tightening these just by my fingers. I'm going to get them all in, all threaded in. And then after the fact, I will pick it up with the drill. Now that everything's finger tight, I'm going to take my drill and just thread them in the rest of the way. I am not going to over tighten these because I am using an impact drill. I'm just making them nice and snug, making sure not to go too crazy. After the fact, I'll take my quarter-inch ratchet and just kind of tighten it as snug as possible without going too insane. What I like to do is get it tight and then go a quarter turn past tight. That way I know that they're in there. Again, this is aluminum. You don't want to go too tight and strip something out. That'll be a bad day. Now that I got all the screws as tight as I can with the drill without going crazy, I'm going to go ahead and take my quarter-inch ratchet and just kind of snug them the rest of the way. Again, what I like to do is a quarter turn past tight. That way I know that they're in there. It's better to make them tight now and rather than worry about them getting loose whenever you reinstall this chunk back inside the transmission. Uh, if you don't do this step properly, then it's going to be a problem because you're essentially going to have to redo everything all over again, drain the fluid, drop the pan, and all that. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure everything's tight now. Try not to make anything too crazy. I take my time here. I just keep going over and over and over until I know that all the screws are good to go. There's a good chance just to take your time. There's no rush here. So once this is all tight, I'll work on the pan and the gasket next. But this is kind of what I'm doing right now, just making sure to tighten all the bolts and still using my little cheat sheet on my phone to make sure that I am tightening the correct bolts. So that's what I'm doing here.
Before I actually take this to the truck and put it back in, I took my pan and cleaned it all up. My old gasket, I used RTV on all the screw holes just to make sure it stayed and there wasn't no leaks. So when I removed the old gasket, it was stuck there. I had to painstakingly use some wire brushes and cleaned up all the edges to be nice and smooth. That way now the gasket has something to, adhere to properly. And then after that, I just kind of wiped this up as best as I could, really get in there, make sure it's nice and clean. I used a microfiber towel to get most of it. Then I came through after the fact. It's probably not necessary, but I just did it just because I have one. I used my air compressor and I blew it out really well. And then I came back again with some more paper towels and just cleaned it, got it in, all the nooks and crannies and stuff. So now that this is clean and this is all put together, I'm going to go ahead and go to the truck and then slap this baby in there, put the pan back, put the filter, or put the filters back, put the pan back, throw some fluid in there, start the truck, let it warm up, and then take it for a spin and then see what happens. So yeah, let's take all this stuff to the truck and I'll meet you over there.
So now that I'm back underneath the truck, I'm just going to go ahead and take a clean microfiber towel and just clean up all the remaining fluid that I can so it doesn't hit me in the face. And while I'm down here, I'm just going to go ahead and reinstall the filter. This can be done either before or after. I just decided to do it right away. So I'm using some of the old liquid to rub on the seal. And then normally you don't want to use a tool to crank down on the filter to make it nice and tight, but I couldn't really get a good grasp of it because I have slippery hands. So I went ahead and tightened it. Not something too crazy, but it's tight. So now I'm going to install the chunk back where it's supposed to go. You want to make sure to line up the little sensor with the hole that's in there. And what I did is kind of push, and once it's aligned, you push it in. I felt it kind of suck in slightly because of the way the seal is. And once I felt that, I just kind of hand tightened the 8 millimeter bolts. There's 6 of them. And once I was able to get 2 of them in, I could let go and work on the rest of them. Again, what I'm doing is hand tighten all of them. And then after that, I'm going to take my drill and make them snug. And then after I use the drill, then I'm going to go back with my ratchet and just make sure that they're all the way tight without going too tight. And again, what I like to do is or quarter turn after they're already tight just to make sure they're nice and snug. So that's what I'm doing here. So now I'm going to plug the sensor back in with the harness. And again, I apologize for the camera angle, but these pipes are definitely in my way. All you're going to do is push it back in. Once you push it back in, that little white clip is you push it up and it kind of locks it into place. And once that white clip is locked into place, then you're going to push the red clip, which acts as a retainer for the white clip to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. So you're going to clip it in. And once it's clipped in, we can move on to reinstalling the collar for the other filter. Okay, so now we're going to replace the seal for the other filter. I've seen tricks online where if you take the little seal and you can have I want to say it's like a 19 or 20 millimeter socket that's roughly the same size as the seal. You can push the socket in and then tap on the socket with a hammer. Obviously, you're not going to go too crazy with it because you don't want to damage anything. I'm going to be honest, this is the simplest part, but it was also the one that gave me the most trouble. Um, that thing did not want to go in there. So I tried the socket. I also tried to use the end of a flathead screwdriver to kind of bang it in there. And ultimately, that's how I got it in. So I kind of struggled with this for a little bit, but once it's in there, you should be good. You want to be careful just to make sure that you're not damaging any of the aluminum around there because again, if you chip anything or put a big dent in anything, that could cause major issues. And yeah, that's a big problem. So all I did was kind of fight with this thing for a while until it got in there. As you can see here, I'm still kind of struggling with it. So this is where I broke out my little flathead screwdriver and used the butt end of it and try to tap it into place. I did this for a while and I kind of got it in there, but not all the way. I just kept playing with it until it actually got all the way in there.
I was able to get it back in, so I used a combination of this. I got it up in there, I banged it with a hammer, I got it most of the way, and then there was a edge that was kind of flared out, so then I used the back of this and used a hammer and tapped it in there. So the seal's in there now. I'm good with that. So now we can go ahead and put our filter in. So, and this guy is just going to go like this. So this is going to go inside of there. And so now we're going to use a T25 and we're going to snug this guy up. I have a little 1/4-inch ratchet here. This little pipe, exhaust pipe, is in the way here. And again, we don't want to make it crazy tight, but we want to make it nice and snug. Alright, so now we got both our filters in. We got our chunk back with the sensor. I'm going to have to put the pan back now. So I need the...
Okay, so now I have the pan and I have my gasket. We want to make sure that we have it in the correct orientation. So what I'm going to do is just kind of lay this out and move it around until I'm satisfied with how it's supposed to go. After I have it lined up, I'm going to put some bolts in to kind of keep it there and then transfer that from the floor to the actual transmission to where it goes. So I'm going to do that and I'll pick up the video after that.
So I got the pan started. I have the gasket also. So kind of what I did was I put one bolt in with the gasket and just kind of like tighten a little bit with my fingers just to kind of hold it up. Then I did this one, then I did this back corner right here, and then I just kind of bounced around just to hold the gasket in place. So this is pretty much what I've been doing. I was fighting with it on camera, or fighting with it off camera. Took a few minutes, but you know, it's not rocket science. Just get it up there, make sure it stays. Before I used RTV, and from research it says you shouldn't use RTV and a gasket at the same time because the gasket or the RTV has a tendency of eating away at the gasket. So I'm going to just go ahead with straight up gasket and see what happens. Worst case scenario, if it leaks, I will have to drain the fluid again, which sucks, and pull the pan back down and get a new gasket, and then I'll use RTV2, kind of like what I did before, but we will see what happens. Give me one. So right now, doing the last few bolts, and then once I have these last to hand tighten in, I'm going to go ahead and use a combination of my drill and my 1/4 inch ratchet to tighten the rest of these bolts all the way. Once this is in and tightened, then I'm going to go ahead and throw fluid in it. And I believe this truck takes about 7 quarts, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll throw 7 quarts in here, then let it run, or turn the truck on, let it sit for a while, let it get nice and hot. Then I'll check the fluid and then add more accordingly. I bought 10 quarts, which I know is overkill, but this pan, this is an aftermarket pan, it holds more fluid than the stock one does. So because of that, it's going to hold more. So I think my truck actually holds like 8-9 quarts. So okay. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of snug all these guys up, and then once I snug all these guys up, I go back with my 1/4 inch ratchet and just hand tighten all of them. I am using a drill, and it's an impact driver. I'm not trying to go too crazy with it. I'm just trying to save a little bit of time and screw these guys in here. So I'm going to do that, and then I will pick it up after the fact. So I'll see you guys in a minute. So I went ahead and tightened all the bolts back to the pan. Again, I don't have the torque spec. I just kind of make them real snug. You don't want to go too crazy because it is aluminum that is threading into, and you can easily strip those threads. And if you do, you're screwed. So please don't over tighten. So now I'm going to throw some fluid in here. So here is my dipstick for the tranny fluid or transmission. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, put my long filter in here, and just start dumping. So again, I think because of my new pan, I believe my truck holds about 9 quarts. So I'm going to I'll probably throw 7, because that is what, from the manufacturer, or from, you know, Dodge or whatever, it takes 7, but I'll ultimately have to add more because I know my pan holds more than that. So I'll just go ahead and start throwing some stuff in here. As soon as that's done, I'm gonna let it crank the car and let it idle for a while to get up to operating temperature. I'll check the fluid levels and then see if I have to add more or not. It's better to have too little than too much, because that way I won't have to drain it back out. So it's not like I'm driving it right now, so if I have too little, it's not going to be the end of the world. I can always add more. But yeah, so let me go ahead and do this, and then I will pick up the video after I'm done. I went ahead and added fluid to my transmission. I put 7.5 quarts in. I put 8. 8 was slightly too much, but then again, I have the aftermarket pan, so if you guys have a stock pan, you're going to use probably about 6.5 quarts. I wind up using about 1 additional quart because of the aftermarket pan. It holds a little bit more fluid. I took it for a test spin. Everything seems to be shifting fine. No check engine lights, which is a good thing. I mean, that's pretty much how you do it in a nutshell. So essentially what I did to replace the shift solenoid pack, or whatever they call it, you have to drop the pan, or drain the fluid, drop the pan, drop what I call the chunk, because I don't know what it's called, but it's the whole piece of the chunk that comes down. The solenoid pack or the shift solenoid sits on top. You remove it using a T25 bit. You put the screw, you put it back, screw it, tighten it up, put everything back, put your new gasket back, put your new filters in, put your pan back, make sure everything's tight and snug, not over tight obviously because it's screwing into aluminum, and pour your fluid back in. I let it idle for about 10 minutes before I checked the fluid. When I checked the fluid, it seemed okay. I took it for a test spin, and then it seemed that my fluid was slightly low, so I added about a half quart more, and then now it seems to be okay. So that's it for this job. Again, my name is Chris, the DIY technician. I'm no professional mechanic. However, you know, something as simple as this, or it seems daunting, but honestly, the job wasn't too bad. All you need is a 8mm socket with a 1/4-inch ratchet. A T25 bit is what I used. I had a drill to make the job a little bit faster. Flathead screwdriver, you know, yeah, I mean, you don't need crazy tools to get this done, but if you have, you know, drills and things like that, it'll speed the process up for sure. But yeah, other than that, that's the process. So if you guys really like this, please give it a like. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and give me a subscribe. I just want to show you guys that, you know, an ordinary guy just like me who is willing to try and do some research and just give it a shot, you can do it yourself. So the part was $350 or $300 with the fluid and gasket and new filters and stuff. I got all the parts from Rock Auto. It was $452. If you were going to take this anywhere else to get done, either one, the shop will tell you, hey, you need a new transmission, that'll be thousands of dollars, or two, there'll probably be like, I don't know, if I had to guess, $1,500 maybe to do. So I did it myself for 1/3 of that cost. It took me about 3.5 hours, but that's me collecting tools, you know, jacking the car up, doing the job, cleaning up, and putting everything away. So really the job is probably, if you have all your stuff, it's probably a 2 to 3 hour job. And again, I've never done this before, so if you've done this a few times, it'll probably be faster, but again, I'm new to this too. So anyway, this is me, Chris, signing off. Again, take care, guys.